Hello, I'm Dr. Jim Taylor, and welcome to Prime Sport Alert. This segment of Prime Sport Alert focuses on overcoming frustration. Frustration may be your most significant obstacle to achieving your athletic goals. We've all experienced the feeling of frustration when you're not able to do something as you pursue your goals. We feel stuck, we get uptight, we lose confidence, and we have difficulty focusing. The best way I can describe the feeling is, argh! It is a truly infuriating feeling. But what is frustration precisely, and what causes it? Simply put, frustration arises when the path toward your goal is blocked. Most athletes and coaches think of frustration as a bad emotion, but it's actually more complex than that. The fact is that frustration is hardwired into us and has tremendous adaptive value. Think about it. Frustration starts out as a good emotion because when we're frustrated, we're motivated to remove the obstacle that's blocking our path toward our goals. We try harder, and that extra effort frequently results in clearing that path, enabling us to continue to pursue our goals. Unfortunately, if despite our best efforts we can't overcome those roadblocks, frustration can then become a harmful emotion. In fact, if frustration isn't dealt with effectively and quickly, it can trigger what I call the negative emotional chain, in which frustration leads to a descent into a series of truly unhealthy negative emotions. If frustration isn't dealt with in a productive way, it can first morph into anger. Now, most athletes and coaches also believe that anger is a bad emotion, but like frustration, it too has both positive and negative sides. Anger starts out as being helpful because it too is motivating. Think about it. When you're angry, you want to go after the thing that's causing your anger. For example, if you can't master a new skill in your sport, you want to go after it and try and try and try. Unfortunately, for most sports, anger swiftly turns into a harmful emotion. The feelings of anger are like those of frustration, but with the volume turned up considerably. Your body becomes tense, so if you play a complex motor skill sport, such as golf or tennis, you lose your coordination and the quality of your performances decline. Your focus narrows so much that you miss important cues necessary to perform your best. And your thinking becomes clouded by the anger, so you're not able to think clearly or make good decisions. If you're not able to clear the obstacles from your path at this point, your emotions shift to the final stage of the negative emotional chain. You experience despair. You've tried and tried and tried and still can't remove the barriers. So what's the natural reaction? Well, to quit. What's the point of continuing to try if nothing you do works? The unfortunate outcome of the conclusion of the negative emotional chain is immediate failure to achieve your goals, which is not something any of us want. It's been my experience that if you move from frustration to anger, continued efforts that day usually fail. And if you experience the negative emotional chain on a regular basis, sinking repeatedly into despair, you will likely lose your motivation and be unwilling to make a sustained effort in the future. With each descent down the negative emotional chain, you come to believe that your actions have little effect and you will progressively lose confidence in your ability to achieve your goals. How young athletes deal with frustration is often influenced by how their parents react to it. If parents model an unhealthy response to frustration that they experience in their lives, for example with impatience or anger, athletes may learn that this is an appropriate and constructive way to deal with frustration. But if parents are calm and positive and look for solutions when they're frustrated, young athletes will likely adopt this approach to frustration. Also, how parents respond to their young athletes' frustration will also affect how they learn to deal with their frustration. If parents become impatient and angry with their children, their frustration may escalate and more quickly turn into anger and despair, further preventing the young athletes from resolving the source of their frustration. But if parents respond to their frustration by asking them in a soothing voice what they're frustrated about and how they can work together to help find the solution to the problem, then the young athletes are more likely to stay calm and follow their parents' lead in looking for a solution to their frustration. Despite the fundamental role that frustration plays in your efforts to be your best, you probably haven't been shown how to deal with your frustration in any sort of constructive, formal way. Your goal is to learn to stop the negative emotional chain at frustration by responding positively to the frustration when it first arises. But the first mistake that many athletes make when faced with frustration is to just increase their efforts. In other words, do whatever they're doing more and harder. But then they're violating the law of insanity, doing the same thing and expecting different results. Instead, when frustration first arises, rather than plowing ahead, you should do just the opposite. In other words, step back from the situation that's causing the frustration. For example, if you just can't seem to get a new technical skill in your sport that you've been practicing, set it aside and take a break. Stopping the activity creates emotional distance from the frustration, thus easing its grip on you. Next, do something that's fun and relaxing during the break. For example, get a snack. And in fact, hunger is a significant cause of negative emotions, including frustration, particularly among young athletes. Listen to music, talk to your friends, anything to take your mind and your body off the feelings of frustration. This step lessens the uncomfortable physical symptoms that come with frustration and generates positive emotions such as happiness and excitement that can counteract the feelings of frustration. A powerful way to counter the feelings of frustration when you step back from the activity is to do something at which you can succeed. For example, some aspect of your sport at which you're actually very good, thus feeding your feelings of confidence and generating more positive emotions such as pride and inspiration. Once the negative emotional chain has been broken, you can then return to the activity with a focus on understanding the problem. If you know what the specific problem that's causing the frustration is, then you have a better chance of finding a solution and resolving the frustration. The final step then is to find a solution to the problem. Though you want to give yourself plenty of opportunity to identify the problem and find the solution yourself, sometimes that's not often possible, in which case I encourage you to reach out to coaches, parents, and others to help you find a solution to the problem that's causing your frustration. Here's a helpful hint. Sometimes it's useful to break down the bigger problem into smaller, more manageable problems. But the reality is that you can't always immediately clear the obstacles to your goals. So continued effort in pursuit of those goals would be futile, and descent along the negative emotional chain would be very likely. The barriers may be just too great to surmount on that day. In this situation, you have two options. First, you can change your goals to ones that can be achieved in the short term. For example, let's say you're frustrated because you're losing a tennis match and nothing you can do will turn the match around. In this case, continuing to pursue the goal of winning will likely take you quickly down the negative emotional chain. But if you shift your goals away from winning to, say, focusing on improving a technical or tactical part of your game, you can still experience some success and get something out of the match. Second, there are going to be days when you just aren't going to make any progress toward your goals, and continuing to try without success will only discourage you and actually hurt your efforts in the long run. In this case, it may be wise to deliberately give up and choose to fight another day. I'm Dr. Jim Taylor for Prime Sport Alert.